Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen with a deep dive into PES, Persistent Entity Streaming, that's coming with Alpha 3.18. What is it tangibly going to do in-game? Cloud Imperium answered a load of questions in a dev response Q&A on Star Citizen Live, so let's jump into that with a bit of a highlights and summary. What is Persistent Entity Streaming? Alpha 3.18 is the foundational tech for Persistent Entity Streaming. PES takes all server data, state and object information and stores it on a database, allowing for everything to be updated, recalled and persist between sessions and restarts. For Alpha 3.18, it's the foundation for a huge amount of new content and server meshing to come. Their game code teams are in the process of integrating and building on this new tech currently. So in 3.18, items and states of the server will persist, so over time a lot can change and a lot will potentially look different on the server that you're on. Items will be in lots of different places. There might be a big pile up of trash. Changes to ships, their states, locations and cargo are all saved between sessions. Some things may still get cleaned up after a server restart though. At this stage, every shard is effectively its own isolated instance, but its data persists over time. So when you log in, you will effectively be jumping into a parallel world. They will address matchmaking, shard affinity, and server meshing in the future to sort of make it so that you join servers that are more appropriate to you and servers that you've previously changed. So what's the difference between shards and servers? Currently, there isn't really any difference, as it's one shard per server, one server per shard. They're the same at the moment. Eventually, a shard will incorporate multiple servers and star systems after server meshing is implemented. How do we get back to the same server that we logged off from? So we've changed some stuff in the server, we've logged off, I want to log back in. In 3.18, they're not making changes to matchmaking, so you're not going to be able to choose what server you go onto unless your friends are already on it. If you crash out, you should be able to return to the same server you were previously on potentially, as long as you join back quickly within a few minutes. Once they have server meshing, we should see players matchmaked onto more appropriate servers. Does PES store items across all servers or shards? Any items that you take on yourself or that are in your ship that's then stored will be able to be recalled on any other server that you go onto. So you'll be able to take those things, that inventory between servers. If you leave an item on the ground, it persists there on that specific server. It's not loaded back into the server that you go onto unless you've logged back into that same server. So you're basically leaving it for someone else to find in most situations. Shard affinity in the future with server meshing will make it more highly likely that you'll get back on the server that you were on, and server meshing may allow everyone to be in the same mega server. So how long will something stay on a shard? Items that you pick up and place, even like a coffee cup, have the potential to stay in that location permanently for someone else to then interact with, but it's only on the specific server you dropped it on. If you leave a ship out, that will also persist in that shard, and you would have to reclaim it if you didn't get back in that server. However, this is a little bit more muddied, that answer, because of something they say later on about combat logging, and we'll come to that in a minute. Is there replication in 3.18 with persistent entity streaming and all that jazz? So 3.18 doesn't replicate items. Each item is unique and locked to the shard it's on. So you can pick it up and store it, and then you can move it with your character between shards, but if it's on the ground, it's on that server. The replication layer is different with server meshing though, so as servers will sort of copy and share data for simulation purposes and allow for the moving between servers seamlessly, but in the same shard. So replication layer, a little bit different from what they meant there. They are working out how player bases will work. They do want that to show up on multiple shards at once, so once a player's built a base, everyone can basically see where that is, but they're still in discussion with exactly how that's going to work. If the server crashes, do I lose my ship? So after you spawn your ship in that server, you fly it around, woo woo woo, and then a 30k or crash happens, your ship is on X shard. The server will sort of rebuild and relaunch with the data where it left off. You might be able to get back into that server. Hopefully you will be able to, bam, but you might be put onto another shard. They are working on a dedicated recovery system that will auto-stow your ship when a server crashes. And in the future, with matchmaking, you will sort of automatically get put back on the shard that you were previously on, if possible, be it due to crash or relogging. In some situations, there might be a waiting time, but you'd be able to choose if you went to a new shard or just wait for the one that you want to get into. Once server meshing is complete, if there is a 30k, a server crash, you wouldn't notice, as they seamlessly move you over to a new server with that data replicated. So why don't they want to have matchmaking in-game right now so you get back onto the servers that you were previously on, sort of guaranteed? So there's not enough staff and resources to work on matchmaking currently, and doing it in stages makes a lot more sense for something that is effectively a live product. They don't want to do too much at the same time, as it just stacks on more and more complication and risk. They're trying to get 3.18 out, and if they waited to add more, they just keep on waiting on everything and adding more and more and more. And obviously they do want to get stuff out the door. What about the cargo refactor and some other features? Are they still coming with 3.18? So the cargo refactor is needed for salvage. It's still planned to be part of Alpha 3.18, at least currently. It's also part of the persistent entity streaming feature, the cargo refactor, so bear that in mind. What's going to happen with combat logging with 3.18? So 3.18 and sort of PES, persistent entity streaming, that's not going to solve combat logging, they said. They will solve combat logging in the future with a logout timer. Now, I didn't really understand that answer because they previously basically said, well, your ship will persist in-game if you log out. So bit confused exactly what's going to happen. Is your ship still going to disappear when you combat log, or is it just going to be the pilot that effectively is moved server or gone out of the game? We'll have to wait and see. They did go on to talk about, if I log out randomly while in my ship, will I log back in where I logged off? So 3.18 will likely keep the current login logout method. So you'll be back in a station or landing zone unless you went to in your bed in your ship. They will be looking at having you log back in the same place and state in the future though, and they have all the tools that they need to be able to do that right now sort of in game. So they just need to add that as a feature. It's possible that it's going to be in 3.18, it's just unlikely from what they were saying. Will serialized variables persist, and things that are and have serialized variables? So everything that had serialized variables, like wear on armor, will now persist in game. What are the plans for culling and getting rid of like stuff that's low priority or trash and stuff? So the old system, lifetime management, would remove items after like a certain amount of time that were unused. Density management is the new system. It looks at areas and the amounts of items in that area. Once the relative cost is too high for performance, items start to get removed. Basically, they want to keep performance at a certain level. Old items and low priority items will get removed first, like coffee cups. Most of this cleanup will happen when an area streams out though. There will, however, be more aggressive policies for areas that never stream out for some reason, or streaming out very rarely, where players might sort of like be trying to collect a pile of trash or fill a sort of valley full of something. They don't want to break the player's immersion and experience, but they do want performance not to be in single-digit frames. Testing in the PTU phase, we'll see some tweaks to the system and hopefully get it into quite a good state. Will PES allow ship states, like MFDs and gimbals, all that sort of jazz, to persist? Gimbal modes should persist. MFDs, multifunction displays, and other things, they haven't really confirmed yet. If it's based on serialized variables, then yes, it will. And if it doesn't, then yes, it will in the future, but not necessarily for 3.18. Some other important stuff about persistent entity streaming. PES is a huge milestone, and they're now able to work towards server meshing and making the game cloud native. It allows them to decouple the simulation from game state, implement server nodes, and start scaling the system. It all needs a lot of testing though. Under the hood, and the foundational changes that PES has brought will eventually allow for a huge amount of really cool stuff in Star Citizen, though a large amount of that won't be apparent for 3.18. PES is now part of the development branch that Cloud Imperium are using to build Star Citizen, and that means it's used by all the devs to build the rest of the game. So some really cool stuff coming with persistent entity streaming. However, it's not as awesome as it could be because we are going to be jumping around different servers that we didn't necessarily interact with previously. So it's going to be parallel worlds, but is a necessary step in developing Star Citizen. Oh, what's that? Tobii Eye Tracker 5 is natively supported in Star Citizen, giving you additional immersion and precise control over your game experience with your face eyes. You can get yours by using the links below or going to tobii.dg/BoredGamer and using the code BoredGamer to get yourself a discount. Do it! Boom, that's it for PES. We should start to see that in the 3.18 Evocati build that should be in our hands at the end of September, at least for Evocati. And they are planning on a live build for mid-November for 3.18. But what do you think? Do you think they'll hit those targets? Do you think PES is exciting for what it does, or do you think it doesn't really do too much in 3.18 at this stage? Will it change the way you play? Are you looking forward to seeing how servers change over time? Do you think there's going to be lots of silly things that happen, like people trying to block elevators and sort of entirely encase landing zones with trash? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. I'm Nord Catch'em, and it's my mission to become a Nord Master. Oh no, it's Team Hacksaw! Hacksaw uses trackers and blocks your ability to go on websites like Netflix and watch the content that you want to on Netflix? Question mark. Go NordyChew! NordyChew uses nordvpn.com/BoredGamer. It is super effective. He beats Team Hacksaw's and he becomes a NordVPN master, a Nordymon master. Fortunately, with NordVPN, you don't need to catch them all. You just need to get a subscription from nordvpn.com/BoredGamer. Links below. Every month we have a ship giveaway, and for September, we're giving away 3 ships, 1 each, to 3 different lucky winners. The Origin 100i, the 125A, and the 135C. Any of these solid starter ships will allow you just to jump into Star Citizen and play right away. All you need to do is comment on any of my videos made during the month to be in for a chance of winning one of those. More details in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to further support the channel, consider using the join button under my videos or becoming a Patreon. Either way, you'll get access to some exclusive content and have more of a voice in shaping the channel. A huge thank you to anyone that already does that. You are amazing. I love you. Zin also is contractually obliged to love you. There is a link for donations and all that jazz in the description below as well if that is your preferred medium. It is super appreciated, genuinely. Once again, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the verse.